My name is Shadow Templar 591, and I'm back playing StarCraft Remastered. So last time we finished off the Zerg campaign. We are now going to start the Protoss and see how they're going to be doing. So let's start this. Okay, yep, kind of like we saw it. Okay, makes sense. Oh, that's kind of cool. Oh! Shit. I think I hit, yeah. Oop, no. Let's do this. Oopsies. So basically, as we saw last time, the Overmind embedded itself. So Auir is a big planet. I didn't realize this, but reading the manual, it's kind of like Earth. So from what I understand, the Overmind is on the other, or like a far distant reach of the planet from where like the main Protoss, I guess, capital is, which kind of makes sense since it's probably less defended than, you know, the main capital of the Protoss. Nonetheless.
Executor. I am Judicator Aldaris. I have been sent by the Conclave to serve and counsel you. The former Executor, Tassadar, was commanded to halt the Zerg progress in the Terran sector by burning the infested human worlds. Unfortunately, he disregarded his orders and attempted to destroy the Zerg while sparing the Terrans from the flame. Clearly, Tassadar has failed us. You must not. The Conclave has dictated that our first priority is to strengthen our defenses. You must reinforce our outpost in Antioch and make certain that the province does not fall to the Zerg. Your old comrade, Praetor Fenix, will meet you there and assist you in this endeavor.
Hashtag not my Aldaris. Sorry, I just don't like that redesign of him. So yeah, so we'll get right into this, and then I've got some lore things that I picked up. I got some notes on. Oh, okay, so we gotta get over there. Okay, so while we're getting over there, so basically the Protoss actually, so as the Overmind alluded to, hashtag spoilers if you haven't seen the rest of my Zerg if you haven't seen my Zerg playthrough and you're coming in at this part, there's some parts you missed. Basically, the Protoss and Zerg are made by the Zelnaga, space. I was gonna say a space worm, but not a space worm. The Zelnaga who are they're not ones that are. Well, that's besides the point. We don't know what they are. Anyways, basically the Zerg and Protoss were made by the Zelnaga. The Zelnaga are a being, a species who are very intellect. They're very high up there. They're basically advanced species, even more than the Protoss. And I didn't bring this up, but out of the three races that you play as and that you see, the Protoss are the most advanced race. So it should tell you how advanced these guys are. The Protoss also, their buildings cost the most, their units cost the most, but they also, you know, they take the most damage. They're just that good. So.
Your command, alas, all of our crews were lost in the last Zerg attack, and we had no resources with which to replace them.
Okay. So we'll do that. Yeah, this portrait for Spiritual. Not digging that portrait, not gonna lie. So going back to what I was saying, so the Zelnaga made the... Makes sense.
Additional
Yeah, so, and then this is another thing. I'm gonna go into the whole Xel'Naga thing, and then I'll go back into the difference between the races, which I probably should have done while I was doing them, but if you've watched all these different videos, you'll probably notice the differences, but I just want to recap them if you haven't noticed them. So, the Xel'Naga made the Zerg and Protoss. Protoss were the first. What makes it... Come on. Come on, man. Come on. Fenix, I'm trying to do stuff here, man. You keep interrupting me. So, they made... Now, the Xel'Naga have been living a long time, like, eons. They usually didn't mess in the evolution of species. For the Protoss, though, and later the Zerg, they made... how can I put this? They basically decided, we'll see what happens, because these Protoss, or the progenitors of the Protoss, are different. They actually have, I don't want to say moxie, but they look like they have potential. They have a lot of potential to them. So if we can guide them as a higher civilization in the right direction, maybe we can kind of, and this part is me reading a little into it, maybe we could create like a better species, or another intellect, a highly advanced species like ourselves. Sorry, I'm not optimizing much. I mean, this is it's a first mission. It's not going to be that hard. So they made the Protoss. All good and well. The problem is, eventually, the Xel'Naga decided to, and actually even before then, so the Protoss were prone to, as a lot of species are, and were tribalism. So they were kind of divided on these different tribes. There was a whole bunch of them. I want to say it's like 6 or 7 of them. That goes back to how big Auir is. A couple of these didn't even know about the other Protoss until the Xel'Naga eventually came down, revealed themselves to the different tribes one by one, and said, "Hey, yeah, we've been kind of guiding your species along. You're welcome." The problem with that is, and what the Xel'Naga did not realize is that threw the Protoss as a faction and as a species kind of into some turmoil. They really didn't know what to do with them. Some said, they should take this new info and this new and learn as much as they could from the Xel'Naga. Others said they should fight them. And this eventually, and I may be convoluting some things or mixing some things up, this is eventually what leads to the Aryan Strife, which is basically the Protoss Civil War. Basically all these competing factions, because before the Protoss, that's actually, now I remember what I forgot. So, when the Xel'Naga came down, what they actually did is they actually made what's called the Kala. So what that is it literally links all the Protoss psionically together. So like Kerrigan talked about ghosts and stuff, and how ghosts have psionic abilities, so do the Protoss. But they have it more naturally, while with the in large numbers, like Protoss are basically psionic from birth, while humans, very few have psionic abilities, and very few can do a lot about that, or do much with that. Do a lot with their abilities. So because of that, the Protoss kind of created what's would eventually call the Kala. They had a system before that, and that unified them and was all great. The problem is there was an eventual breakdown in that system, and that's actually what led to the Iron Strife. Basically, the Protoss became disconnected from each other, and were feeling as if, like, the new creators were, the Xel'Naga, the newfound creators, the newfound gods. I mean, if you really think about it, it's literally as if, God came down and said, hey, I created you, I was the reason your species is the way it is. Thank you very much. So they had a conscious crisis, and what happened eventually is they did coalesce, but as the Xel'Naga influence became... Oh wow, that is a lot of guys. Let me see if I can. Yeah, that's... See if I can lure some of these guys over here. Okay, let's retreat.
The warriors have engaged the enemy.
Cool. And because of this undue influence, what happened with some of the protesters, they were wondering, they became kind of anxious, to be honest. They were like, well, are we still the same protest race, or because of now, and obviously they always had the influence of the Xel'Naga in them, because, they skilled them, but now a more overt and direct influence of Xel'Naga, they had a crisis of conscience on some of them. They wondered, like, well, now that we have this influence of Xel'Naga, are we really, are we even less Protoss now than what we were? And what does that even mean? So, some of them began to distance themselves from the Xel'Naga, began to distance them from other Protoss who, really got on this idea of, hey, we're this united race, we have this united conscience, and they eventually not only declared war against the Xel'Naga and won, but against their own brethren, and that's actually what led to the Aeon of Strife. Eventually, Adun, who you will hear all Protoss basically praise, what happened with him is he was sent by the Conclave. Oh, was he? Yes, okay, he was sent by the Conclave. There's another guy, and I forget his name. Let me see if I've got it in my notes while we're waiting for guys. Let's see. Gas system. Khas, Khas, who the Kala system is, and laws are actually named after, is the one who basically realized, hey, the Protoss had these latent abilities to psionically link each other. Oh wow, that is a lot of guys. What my guys got? Okay. So, realized they had these psionic abilities. Kind of told other Protoss, made the Kala system, linked them up. But once again, they had the same kind of problem. Not all Protoss were totally on board with this, and you might say, well, they don't have to worry about the influence of their Xel'Naga, so what could they be so worried about? Well, when you enter a system like that, basically the way it works is you actually can understand the thoughts of, like, past Protoss. So what a lot of Protoss were actually worried about is losing their individuality. They said, hey, if we become basically part of this collective, which it was, I'm gonna lose some of my, I'm gonna lose my individuality, which and I can see the argument for it. I don't know if exactly that's what would have happened. You know, obviously a fictional race, so we may never know. But that was the fear, at least. And those people who eventually, so what eventually happened there is the Conclave, who had basically been set up to replace the tribal system, and which we are part of because we are the executor, set up to replace the tribal system and unify the Kala and the Kala system and the Kala laws and make sure those are all being followed, got set up. The problem is, what do you do with these malcontents now? You can't have them around. Like, it's just, because now you have the problem of a second and strife happening. So what happened is Adun was eventually sent to basically kill off what would become the Dark Templar. He refused, and he thought if he couldn't convince them to come to his side, you know, to come to the side of, hey, let's join this Kala, it's going to be a really good thing. The problem is, when he tried to do that, shit went wild, a lot of protests died, and the problem for the Conclave is they really couldn't do anything about the Dark Templar, because who would become the Dark Templar, because they're not there yet. They couldn't kill them because up to this point, the big thing.
Marched across hundreds of worlds together. I never imagined that we would be fighting on Auir. The Zerg are indeed worthy foes.
Okay, I'm gonna finish this up. So, Adun, Dark Templar. Okay, so they couldn't kill the Dark Templar because they would have said. Everyone would have known that they existed, and the reason that's a big thing is the Conclave had basically been telling everyone, we're all part of this thing, no one is outside this thing, so don't worry, you know, everyone is inside this, so now that would fly in the face. So what they did is they exiled them, and those exiles became the Dark Templar. I'll go into more next time why they look different, why they think different, but that's essentially what happened, and then there's some other things which once again I'll go in next time. But this was a quick lore thing on the Protoss, the Timonite brood. No, I was gonna say that's Zaz, but Zaz is dead, and I think he had the good Mungeon. Anyways, so yeah, guys, that's the first Protoss mission. Expect more lore next time.